But cut a long story short, once I had figured this out and said, okay, so that makes sense. The seven wandering stars are suns and moons for the different realms. Who lives there? Who lives where? I know we're here, but who's at the center? Who's on the outside? Who's beyond that? And then I thought, well, where do I start? So I went back to ancient cultures and I put all the different descriptions and names of all the different extraterrestrial beings, from the Anunnaki to the reptilians to the Nephilim to the Aryans to the uh, all of them. Yeah, and I put them in a list. I categorized them. I sort of try to work out which ones fit in where and how do they fit in and what would make sense. So, cut a long story short, I came to the conclusion that just like we have four main races in this part of the earth, we've got uh, the Oriental Indians, or the Oriental Asians, sorry, the Indo-Asians, we've got the white race, and we've got the black race. Those are the four main root races here on earth. So I thought, I wonder if those four main root races are seeded from four cosmic root races, four races that are in these different planes. So four different planes, four root races, four
Well,
races.
we've heard about giants mating with human females. I mean, these are
Right?
things that we've learned about already in the Bible. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I was trying to put all of that into context, and I came to the conclusion that at the center, we have a race of beings called the Ariana, or the Aryans. Um, they are the center beings that live there. They are what are sometimes known, in fact, no, right at the center on Mount Meru, on Mount Olympus, on Mount Zion. This is where the master root race lives. This is where the angels are. In the Abrahamic text, they talk about angels. In the Vedic text, they talk about Das avatars. Um, they talk about Polarians and Pleiadians. Um, these are the beings that live right at the center, on the tree of life, if you like. They're said to be not completely human, as many Christians or religious people will know. They're sort of half human, half not, semi-ethereal beings. A lot of cultures describe them as being almost translucent blue beings. They're bluish, indigo bluish beings. Um, yeah, so that's the master root race, and that is what we all are. We are all Polarian. That is what our spirit is, our consciousness, if you like, our souls are Polarian, of Polarian origin. So they're known as the master root race, and they seeded all life, all physical life here on Earth. The next race of beings beyond that, in this first round, first physical round, would be what's known as the Ariana, or the Aryans, and they were seeded about 6,000 years ago. They're Nordic looking beings, very tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, very, very pale. Um, yeah, that's how they've been described by many people who've met them or gone to this realm or described them. And then there's us, and we are known as Atlanteans. So all of us in this realm, regardless of what shade of pigment we are all Atlantean beings, right? So this is Atlantis. On the outside is a race of beings called the Lemurians, sometimes known as the reptilians. So that's where that whole reptilian thing comes from. The draconians, sometimes they call them the draconian beings, reptilians, Lemurians. This is them out here. And by the way, these Aryans are sometimes known as fallen angels, or the Nephilim sometimes, or the gods. That's where all those words and phrases come from. And right on the outside, in this realm where Saturn and Jupiter are the Anunnaki, the Hyperboreans. These are the Anunnaki beings, the Hyperborean beings, that you often hear being talked about. The ancient beings that once came to Earth and um, did whatever they, well, all of them are said to have been in this realm at some stage. And these Aryans at the center, I think if we met one of them, we'd see the similarities, like I said, with the white race, what we call the white race, which is not really a race because we're all Atlanteans, but the white pigment of Atlantean, you'd say, I see where that genetic trait comes from, right? They would look very similar to yourself, I suppose. And if we went to this outer land and we met these Lemurians or reptilians, I'm willing to bet would say, I see where Oriental Asians get their traits and their looks from.
They have dragons that are used in a lot of their imagery, art, and culture. So interesting.
Yeah, dragon motif is extremely big in the Oriental countries, and I think that's where that comes from. You also see it with their face, with their features. They've got this I don't want to say reptilian because it's
Well,
the negative.
a flatter facial shape, perhaps.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So if you had to put the comparison, you could see how those beings, if they looked similar to the Oriental Asians, why they would be called reptilians. If that
And this
makes sense.
doesn't make anybody bad or good who has
Oh,
any of these that are
no,
living in the
it's not a
Atlantean
race
area
thing.
where we live.
It's not a
So,
race thing. Not
right.
a race thing. And then if you went out here and you met the Hyperboreans in this realm where Saturn and Jupiter is the sun and moon, I think you would all go, I see where black people get their traits from. So they would look very similar to myself, maybe same pigment, same facial features, hair, would be very similar to these
Where do
beings.
you get that conclusion from?
I'm just connecting the dots. So this is not so much a theory, but more a hypothesis.
Mm.
So a theory is something that you can substantiate and say, well, I'm coming to this conclusion based on this evidence. Whereas this is a hypothesis because there isn't a lot of evidence for it. It's just an idea, I think. I'm trying to connect the dots. But it also makes sense because based on my model, everything began from the center and spiraled outwards. So this realm that's now on the outside would have been the first realm ever created. And this is why Saturn is known as Father Chronos, Father Time, because this is when time began. And Jupiter is known as Mother Rhea, Mother Area. This is the first area of physical land in our universe. So these Hyperboreans would have been the first beings, first physical beings to inhabit the plane of the Earth within this electromagnetic universe. And I think this is where the myth of we all came from black people comes from. So you can see how they've twisted the lie. They say we all came from Africa, we came from monkeys, and we evolved from monkeys to becoming black people, and then became the different races. So you can see how they've twisted the truth there. I think the first beings would have been these Hyperboreans who would have a darker pigment, and then obviously all the other races then followed on after that. The next ones would have been the Lemurians, the Oriental Asians, and the next ones would have been us, the Atlanteans. And the original Atlantean prototype body, if you like, would be the Indians, the Vedic Indians. This is why the Indians have the deepest rooted spiritual culture, if you like. The text, the Indian text, the Persian text, they have the deepest, oldest texts on earth. And I think that's because they were the original Atlantean prototype avatar, if you like.
In a lot of their artwork, there are blue people as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Krishna, who is said to have been their god or their Jesus equivalent, is described as being a blue being, a blue person. So yeah, you're right in saying that.
And
So
so Krishna would have come from the center part and then
absolutely, yeah.
come outward.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if NASA is doing some truth and lots of lies, as we know, they have gone to the Lemurian area with their rockets. And that's why they say they're going to Mars. So that's the area where there could be the reptilians. And a lot of people say, people like the Rockefellers or anybody in charge, the powers that should not be, are descendants of or involved in some way with a dark force, like you would think a reptilian would be. So are the scientists wanting to go, and the people telling them to do it, go there to Why are they going there?
Oh, wow, that's a long-winded. There's a long-winded answer to that, so I'll try and summarize it as best I can. Um, Space and time always spirals from the center, so creation itself is like a drop of water. When you drop a drop of water in a bucket, the ripple spirals from the center going outwards. So the closest thing to heaven on earth or to God would be the closer you are to the center, to the very core, to the heart of it. Um, and of course, the further away you are from that, the further away you are from God or the creator, if you like, not God, the creator, the further you are from spirituality, the more dense you become, the more materialistic you become, the less spiritual you are. So these beings, these entities that are currently ruling us in this realm, they are entities that are spiraling outwards. They do not want to be going to spirituality. They enjoy power, they enjoy control, they enjoy manipulation. So they want to be as far away from spirituality, from the creator, from source, from the center as they can. So as this energy is spiraling outwards ever so slowly, they are looking to move further and further and further and further away. And this is what this cosmic clock is. And that sort of explains the nuts and bolts of what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it's all pointing to 2020 when this, what I think is going to be an event, what they call an event, a galactic alignment, a solar event. Ready. I think in 2020, what's going to happen is there's going to be a solar alignment between the different celestial suns, what the ancient Celtics call the return of Nuifer, the Nuifer light. And it is going to be what's known as a sonic boom. It will look like a nuclear bomb. And this will begin at the center, will spiral out. And as that happens, it will release an energy from the center that will go out into all the different realms and then come back in again, this energy. And this energy will be it will look like the aurora borealis. It will look like this green, purplish astral ray that will just permeate everywhere, across into our realm, across into the other realms, and back again to the center. And during this time, this is when these torus fields are going to open up. And because at the moment they're closed up, we can't go there. They can't go. I think there are underground tunnels, but I don't think we can cross the actual toroidal fields. But I think there's going to be a window, a gap in 2020 where these toroidal fields will open up, and people, those with eyes to see and ears to hear, and those who know what, were aware of this, will be able to go between the realms, wherever you want to go. Those going out will go out to Mars. That's when they'll go colonize Mars. Those who are going into the Garden of Eden. I noticed that a lot of ancient cultures had wheels or calendars or clocks of time. So I gathered as many as I could and studied them. And this is what I came up with. So, right, the center, this would be where Mount Meru is. This is where the Polarians are. So this would be the central realm. Outside this ring would be the Aryan ring, where the Aryan beings are at the moment. This one, outside that, would be us, the Atlanteans. The one beyond that would be the Lemurians, and the one beyond that would be the Hyperboreans. And like I said, everything spiraled from the center. So the first Garden of Eden would have been here. The Hyperboreans would have been here during the first, what they call an epoch, the first cycle of physical time. And this is where Saturn and Jupiter would have come out, been seeded from the center, and then they'd have gone through a cycle of time. So time is not linear, like we're taught. It doesn't go in a straight line. Time is circular. There's nothing new under the sun. What's happened before happens again. You hear all these things. I think that's in the Bible as well. So that's where that comes from. Everything always goes full circle. So once time goes full circle, and I think the time frame, this thing is called an epoch, this clock all the way around. I think it's about 24 to 26,000 years. So some say 25,900 something, some say 26,000. So it's around that time frame. When that happens, we have something called a pole shift. And basically, this realm at the center gets pushed away from the tree of life and becomes the second realm. So the Hyperboreans were pushed away, and a new realm unfolded from the center, which would have been the Lemurians. The reptilians were the second Garden of Eden, and the second seeded root race, the second beings to be created.
Would that be why in the Bible that Adam and Eve had to leave the Garden of Eden? Was this
Yes.
part of this?
Yes, yes. That is what that allegory is telling us. So Adam and Eve is not two physical people. It's an allegory for any one of these races of beings. So when the Hyperboreans were here, they were the Adam and Eve living in the Garden of Eden. And at some point they were cast out of the Garden of Eden and they became the second realm. So it's continuously always folding outwards, like I said, like a tree does, or like a ripple of water. So you've got the Lemurians next, and then after that epoch, they were pushed out. So the Hyperboreans were pushed further out. The Lemurians were then pushed out, and then we were created. We were now Atlantis. This is when we were in our golden age, when we were the Garden of Eden at the center.
And that's why there's a quote, lost city of Atlantis, because the city isn't lost. It's that we lost the land and were pushed out.
Yes. We were washed out with the flood, with the deluge, the great flood. So they tell you that Atlantis sank, which is kind of a half truth. So I'll explain how those resets work. But anyway, we were pushed out. And then after our epoch, when we were pushed out, the next realm was seeded, which is now the current Garden of Eden, which is the Aryan realm and Aryan root race. And I believe that was about 6,000 years ago from now.
So when these changes occur,
mm-hmm.
It's got to be cataclysmic.
Yes, not always, but sometimes. So within all these different realms and these different timelines, there are different resets, there are different stages of consciousness. So for instance, I believe in evolution, but not in physical evolution. Like, we came from monkeys. So that is nonsense. But I do think there is conscious evolution. So our consciousness rises and falls during different ages. And a lot of ancient cultures, so this is not my belief, this is what a lot of ancient cultures spoke about as well. So the Vedics talk about the 4 Yuga ages, the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, the Gold Age. In fact, all the ancient cultures had a similar sort of system. So when a race of beings, or when a realm is in the Iron Age, this is the lowest form of consciousness. This is when this is what we've been in recently. We've been in the Iron Age. We're just coming out of the Iron Age. So this is when you have deep amnesia. You don't know where you are. You don't know who you are. We're all just lost. We are far away from the Creator, right? And then you get into the Bronze Age. You begin to awaken. You start waking up. You start figuring things out. The control systems start falling apart. People start to find the God within them. They start taking control of reality, and so forth and so forth.
And that's happening among so many people that you and I know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're on the cusp. We're shifting out of the Iron Age into the Bronze Age. We're now beginning to awaken now. We're coming out of that cusp. And once we've done our time in the Bronze Age, which is about 3,000 years, we'll head into the Silver Age. And then in the Silver Age, this is when we're now becoming super beings. Like a lot of these ancient cultures talked about these super advanced beings, And then by the time you get to the Golden Age, this is when we are at full maximum potential, like the best you can be in your avatar, if you like. And by the way, all these different races, they are all avatars of a Polarian. So these Hyperboreans on the outside, even though they're Hyperboreans and they are a different root race, the souls within an Hyperborean avatar is a Polarian. Same with Lemurian, same with us, same. So everything goes back to the center. We are all Polarian. at core, every single one of us. This is where you get that saying, we're all one in the universe. Everything's one. The universe. Uni means one. Universe. One verse. We're all from the same song. Different hymns of the same song. So where was I? So there are the different ages within the different realms. You know, the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, the Golden Age. And everything spins like a clock that spirals from the center. So let me explain. I'll use the central realm at the center because that's probably the easiest one at the moment. So within that, they've got 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Yuga ages, what they call Yuga ages, 8 small ages that are 3,000 years each. And each of these realms has the same system, has 8 of these Yuga ages. The first one is the Iron Age, 3,000 years, the Bronze Age, 3,000 years, the Silver Age, 3,000 years, and then the Gold Age all the way around until the next reset. Is that making sense?
Yes, completely.
Yeah. But also within that, there is also something called a zodiac timeline. So the zodiac is obviously the zodiac constellations that we see in the sky, right? Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, the 12 zodiac signs. They are also markers of conscious time. They help us shift into different paradigms of consciousness.
So,
So
since we're moving toward the Bronze Age, does that equal to moving toward the age of Aquarius?
yes. So let's use ours, for example. 3,000 years ago, we had our reset. This is when we had the great deluge, the big flood that reset us out of the old golden age. So we were still in the Atlantean golden age, right? So we had to start the new Aryan golden age. So the Aryans began the Iron Age, they were the first ones. And then the ripple or the clock switched to us. And then we had ours 3,000 years later. And this is where we've been. But this shift happened in the middle of our Aries zodiac sign. So in the middle of Aries, in the middle of the ram, right? Before Aries was Taurus. So in the Bible, you're told that in the Old Testament, they all worshipped the bull, right? The golden calf. So they're telling us that's astrology. That was the age of Taurus. So they weren't physically worshipping golden calves. It's an allegory to tell us that we were in the age of the golden calf, which is Taurus. And then at some stage, Abraham was told to sacrifice a lamb, right? Stop the bull worship and sacrifice a lamb. No more bulls. So they're telling us we're now in the age of the ram, right? Aries. And then 2,000 years later, who comes along? The fisher of men. Pisces. Pisces, the two fish. Jesus, the fisher of men. So again, another allegory. So they're telling us that 2,000 years later, we went into the age of Pisces. And now we're on the cusp of getting into the age of Aquarius, the water bearer, the waterman, or water lady, right? So this is where we're now shifting ages. And we're also shifting out, we're not just shifting from Pisces to Aquarius, we're also shifting from the Iron Age into the Bronze Age. So this is called the Galactic alignment. A lot of ancient cultures talked about this as well, that this happens occasionally. And all these shifts are not just, particularly these ones, these alignment shifts, they're not just conscious shifts. Sometimes they're actual physical shifts that happen, physical markers, physical things happen, particularly these cardinal ones. So this one, that one, that one, that one, that's the cross. These ones are huge shifts of conscious and physical shifts. So, for instance, over here, when we shifted, we had the great flood, the great deluge. It washed away everything that was old, the old Atlantean paradigm, and we began this new Aryan paradigm. And this is when we had the fallen angels, the Nephilims, some of these Aryans coming into our realm to seed some of that Aryan energy, if you like, as we began that. And that happened obviously with all the other races as well. So this is where we are. We are now on the cusp of a super big shift. I think we can all agree that something monumental is happening right now. At the moment, it's very conscious. So whether you're a Christian or whether you're a Muslim or whether you're a whatever you believe in, we can all feel that something is just around the corner. Every one of us. Some are saying it's a war. Some are saying it's the end of the world. Some are saying the return of Jesus or Krishna or Allah or Muhammad, whatever you want to. Everyone can feel that we're on the cusp of something massive, right? So I've come to the conclusion that this is where we are now. We're very close to this, and I think that's going to be in 2020 when the physical shift will happen. But it won't be as violent as the last one, the water one, because the last one needed to be violent because it was a washing away, it was a reset. But now it's not a reset; it's an ascension. We're ascending into the Bronze Age. We're not descending. So here we're descending from gold to iron. Here we're ascending from iron to bronze. So this one will be a physical shift, but it will be a lot less chaotic and a lot less destructive. In fact, it will be chaotic, but a lot less destructive physically.
So it will be more positive.
It'll be a lot more positive, a lot more positive. So
I've
I think the
said,
gain.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No.
Oh, well, I've said on a couple of shows that as 2020 approaches, it just came to me that this is, we all have heard of 2020 vision, excellent vision, that this is where our vision is expanding as we head toward 2020. And that's when I think something's going to happen. I have no reason for thinking that or saying that, but I've been saying it for a while now, and it kind of dovetails into what you're saying.
Yeah, and a lot of people have said that to me. When I released it, a lot of people were like, "Wow, it's amazing that you've brought up that date and that time frame, and that something will happen," because I've been feeling the same thing. So I think subconsciously within the human psyche, we are all sort of now gravitating towards the same truth, and that's normally how I know whether I'm on the right track or not. Whether lots of people resonate. So this is what you might call the hidden hand. These beings, both these beings, have been the hidden hand, the shadow government. They've not been able to directly come into this realm, but I think they've been manipulating us and controlling us from behind the veil being obviously the electromagnetic field separating us. So I think you're right in saying that, because now, if we go by this sequence, this outer realm, the Lemurians, they've just had their reset, their Iron Age, their big apocalypse, their big washout, like we had 3,000 years ago. And I think that's what those sounds were that we heard in 2015. Remember, everyone heard those sounds, crazy sounds like metal, screeching. Personally, my hypothesis is that's what that was. That was a big, catastrophic apocalypse, physical one, a reset happening in the outer realms. Every one of these realms has got elements of good and bad. There's duality in all these realms. I don't want to pinpoint and say these beings are evil or these beings are evil and these ones are better. There's duality in all the realms. So there are Aryan beings that are negative beings, right? And I think when this shift happens, there will be some bad Aryans coming in. That might be people talk about the Antichrist, right? Advanced. If they're more advanced than us, if a being comes from this central realm and it's more advanced than us, this is what you might call the Antichrist. They'll bring medicine and they'll heal the world. But if they're coming out, it means they are a negative Aryan. They're trying to go outwards. They don't want to be there anymore, right? So likewise, there will also be Lemurians who are good Lemurians who will come into our realm, right? Who want to go closer to the center. So that ripples right across the board. I think there are good souls and good beings in all the different realms. There has to be duality. There has to be equilibrium in all the realms, in all the races. So this is not picking on anyone in particular. I think if we say these powers that shouldn't be, I like the way you put that, it's a conglomerate of beings from all the different races in different realms. So I think the toroidal field is weakening, and they're so eager to get out. They're trying to worm their way through that electromagnetic field, which is what we're seeing with those spirals. That's all electromagnetic plasma. It's like a drill trying to get through that plasma. So that's why you see that spiral. Well, that's how I interpret it.
It makes a lot of sense.
And that's why it's increasing, because they're obviously aware about all this. So they're trying to get through there as early as possible, as quick as possible. Hence, Trump has announced a space force as well. So he says by 2020 we need to have a space force ready to be airborne. So a lot of it is pointing to the year 2020. I've come to understand that there are only 3 types of souls in the universe, which is why this is so famous in all the Eastern religions. That 3, that 33, that number 3, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit in the Bible, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, protons, electrons, and neutrons. You always see this 3. And I think the root of that comes from polarity. So like I said, if we're all polarians and everything is energy, and the soul within you is an energy being, an intelligent energy being called a polarian, energy only has 3 polarities, right? Energy can either be negative, neutral, or positive, right? So when you meet a negative person, that is a negatively charged soul. If you meet a positive person, that's a positively charged soul. If you meet some people who are just neutral, they're not good or bad, they just living my life, that's a neutralized polarian, if you like, soul. So I think that goes with all the different realms. There are positives, neutrals, and negatives in all the different realms. And this is just the cycle of life. So where we are now, there are a lot of people or Atlantean beings that are negative polarian souls, right? And they want to control other beings. They want to rule over other beings. They're negatively charged. They are looking to go outwards. They want to keep this, they want to stay in this dense Iron Age reality for as long as possible because they enjoy that. So that's a minority in the grand scheme of things. I think that's a minority. The majority of beings would be in the middle. There'll be neutrals. These are most people that you meet who don't care. You talk about flat earth, they say, I really don't care. I don't care about flat earth or veganism. I just want to have a happy life. I want to live my life and just die peacefully. I really don't care about this stuff. So these are the neutrals. These are what people call sheep, right? That's the derogatory term. Sheep have to be led. They're neutral. Sheep don't have a brain for themselves. They're not negative or positive. They go wherever they're being pulled or being led, right? So these are the neutrals, most of the people, most of the beings. And then on the flip side, you've got a lot of positive souls, positively charged polarians. And these are the souls always looking to go within, go inside. They're looking for spirituality. They're looking for love. They're looking for, they're looking to connect with a creator of some sort, of some kind. So they're being drawn inward, right? So that would be the same for the Aryans. The Aryans would have negative Aryans who are looking to come out here, right, and rule over us, right? But they're not as negative maybe as the negatives out here, or the negatives out here, or the negatives out there. If that makes sense. The duality is a lot less the further you are to the closer you are to the center than it would be on the outside. Everything they've been doing to us or doing in this realm has been leading up to this event that's coming. It's all been preparation for that. So vaccines, chemtrails, changing our diet to a dense diet, putting foreign chemicals in bodies that shouldn't be in our bodies. All of that has been preparation for this, telling us that we live on a globe. They've been prepping and planning for this event for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So they've known this was coming. And the whole idea is they don't want this event to change this reality too much that they lose complete control of it. Because as this energy comes in, it will activate dormant DNA within us. It's meant to be awakening us. It's the Christ consciousness that the New Ages talk about, right? So the idea, the whole plan, I think the elites have been trying to do is to try and minimize that awakening. So we're already feeling that energy. People are waking up now. It's not a coincidence. It's because that energy is slowly seeping in, and it's seeping in and it hits you. You have your moment of awakening. You wake up. Something happened and I just woke up. I watched a video. It triggered me.
And we're compelled, those of us who are in the awakening game, you and I and everyone watching this and everyone who makes videos, etc., we are compelled to do this. There's nothing
Yes,
that can stop us from doing this. Just like
absolutely.
the powers that should not be are compelled to try to keep us asleep, or to fool us, to look in a different direction while they do their magic trick and with the other hand.
Absolutely. It almost feels like you have to. You don't have a choice. I feel like I have to. I don't have a choice. I can't imagine myself doing anything other than this. I have to do this.
There's no way to go back into the
There's
matrix
no way
and
to go
keep the
back.
matrix stake.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So these entities, they're trying to minimize this energy as much as they can. Because if people wake up too much, I think, they'd be in trouble. They'd be in big, big trouble. So vaccines, the heavy metals they're putting into foods, they're making us eat, even chemtrails, all of that is preparation for this. And I think in 2020, when this wave comes in, I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm not trying to, I'm just, do with it what you will, but I'm just sharing how I'm seeing things. I think they've put all these chemicals in our bodies. They put all these ions and these foreign bodies in our bodies, and they're acting like blockers. They're like blockers. And as this energy comes in, instead of it awakening you, it will try and detox your body first. It'll be blocked by these heavy metals in our bodies, right? So you won't awaken, you'll get sick. It'll almost like you're going into withdrawal. You know, when someone's on drugs, on heroin, and they stop taking heroin, they go into withdrawal symptoms and they get violently sick before they get better. And I think that's what that energy will do to a lot of people with foreign toxic bodies. That energy will try and cleanse everything. It's meant to be coming in to cleanse. So it will come and many people will get sick. They'll be radiated. This is what they call radiation, right? Radiation is not something we've been programmed to fear it. But when you say something is radiant, what are you saying?
It's glowing with beautiful light.
Right? So why wouldn't you want to be radiated? You want to be radiated. You want radiation. Okay.
And look at
So
Jesus in art with the glowing halo.
absolutely, he's radiating. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what that energy is meant to do. It's meant to come in and radiate. So the more pure you are, the more consciously prepared you are, spiritually, physically, consciously, the more that energy will radiate you and unlock dormant DNA. And this is where we get into the realm of supernatural abilities, supernatural powers. I think that is a real reality. Jesus walking on water, I think he might have done that because he was radiated. I don't dispute that that's possible. So I think that could be a reality where it radiates you and we're able to walk on water or be clairvoyant or whatever it is, right? And this is where they say you need to find your element. Someone's in their element. Going back into astrology, if you know your element, maybe when that energy radiates you and you are receptive of it, it will unlock that hidden potential within you, that hidden element, your element, whatever your element is. I'm a water sign. So perhaps there's something to do with water with me that might be radiated when that happens, if that happens.
Interesting. I'm Aquarius, so I'm the water bearer. So
There you go. There you
bringing
go.
about the age of Aquarius.
Brilliant. So I think all of that is leading to that. They want as little people as possible to be radiated, but also they want everyone to be caught off guard by surprise. Why? Because it will create panic, it will create fear, it will create confusion, and out of that chaos, they will bring in the order, right? Abdo Abchow, that's the Freemason thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Illuminati
Order out of
motto.
chaos.
Order out of chaos. So they're keeping us all distracted. We're all here fighting, arguing, no idea that this thing is about to happen. And then one day, boom, it happens. And it's real. And everyone's seeing it. And everyone's confused. Everyone's scared. They're telling everyone we've been bombed by aliens, right? Aliens have just bombed us. They dropped us a nuclear bomb from Mars or whatever, right? Or it was China, or it was God knows what's global
Well,
warming.
we've
God,
been warned about the fake alien invasion, so it
absolutely.
could play a role in what you're talking about, but in a
Yeah.
slightly different way.
Yes, yes. So I think that is I think they've got many cards on the table, many plays they might play out. And I think that's one of them. and they'll tell everyone to go indoors. It's radiation. We've been bombed. Don't go out. Stay inside. Be safe. You'll get sick. And of course, those with heavy metals will get sick. But those of us who have the eyes to see and ears to hear, those of us who know what's up, we won't be afraid. Um, we'll be I'm celebrating if that happens. I'll be rejoicing. It's a good thing. It's something we should be celebrating. And yeah, and that's when those of us planning to make a journey to the north, that is when I think that window will happen. So that will happen for a short space of time, and then the Taurus fields will close up again. That astral mist, that purple haze will disappear over some time, and then the new world order will begin after that.